Hi 4-H friends, we're going to talk about the general project record. So this is a project record sheet that you complete each year when you do a project. So basically we expect that when you enroll in 4-H, and that's online, in 4-H online, we ask you to select projects. And each year that's left blank. The projects don't carry over from the year before. So you're going to be picking your projects. Most people do 2 projects usually. Some people do as many as 8 or more. So it's really up to you. But you want to keep in mind that when you sign up for the projects in January, we want you to do the project through the year, and then at the end of the year, give us a record sheet that tells just kind of what you did and what you learned in that project. So just think ahead of how much you want to spend time on your project records. And this is the general record sheet. This is the one that most people use unless you have an animal project. One thing that's been done incorrectly in the past that makes more work for the member is that they feel like they have to fill out this project record sheet plus the one for the animals. You don't have to do that. A lot of the information is the same. So if you have an animal project, you want an animal record sheet specific for that one. This is for every other project. So this is for projects that are listed in our guide. You know we have over 200 to choose from. So this is every project related to any kind of home, like a home economics project. If you're doing cooking or sewing or gardening, it could be woodworking, collecting insects, beekeeping. It could be rockets or our STEM projects like robotics. So this is for all the other projects when you're not feeding and caring for an animal. So the general project record sheet starts off just your name, how many years you've been in the project. You might wonder, why do we want to know that? Generally, the more years you're in a project, we want to make sure you're showing us growth and you're learning something new in your project. It has a place for the member and the parent to sign it, and even the club leader as well. What goals did you set for yourself in this project? Now, if you remember, the prior video talked about the goal for your whole 4-H year. This would be a goal just for this project. So let's say you're doing a woodworking project. What's your goal for woodworking is what you want you to answer here. And it might be to build 3 projects using wood that I got from my grandfather's house or something like that. You can just put whatever it is your goal is that particular year. And then it's at the bottom, then it's going to ask you, what were 2 things that you learned from completing this project this year? So let's say you were doing a craft project. You could write, I learned how to do this, or I learned how to make my own paint to do something or other. So it's just 2 things that you learned. And then the last question is, what is one thing you would like to improve or do differently in your project? So we're always looking for you. If you remember, the 4-H motto is to make the best better. So this question is just like, okay, if you took this project again, what would you like to continue to learn or do better next year? On the second sheet, there's very little to fill in. It's really, they're showing you this life skills wheel. And we've started to put this life skills wheel on every project record because it's talking about the head, heart, hands, and health, that is 4-H, and what kind of skills we want you to gain by doing this project. So it asks you then, regarding this particular project, how did you use your head? And then here you go down to this head category, and it might say goal setting. So you could list a goal that you made for yourself using your head this time. Then you do the same thing with heart. Go to hands. For hands, you might say, it talks about teamwork or self-motivation. So you would talk about how you used your hands to do your project or to help somebody else. And then you do the same thing with health. So this wheel helps you figure out a good answer for the head, heart, hands, and health categories. All right, then we get into the details of what you actually did during your project. On the third page, it says, list the activities and the project resources that you used. So it just asks you to give a general date. You don't have to have the exact date. When you're thinking about your project record and you're looking back, if you can remember it was summertime and I did this or that, it's fine just to put an estimated date. But it wants to say, what did you do and what did you learn when you did that? So this part is really the important part, is we want to know, what did you do, what did you learn? And when you're talking about what you did, this can be looking at your project guides. It can be looking on the internet for ideas. It could be talking to parents, talking to relatives, talking to neighbors, just anything that you did to learn more about this project. It could be participating in a fair or a show or a workshop. It could also be exhibiting something at the fair. Those are all the things that you can do, but they want you to say, so what did I learn from doing that? Then it asks you, did you do a speech or a demonstration or talk to somebody about your project? And again, sometimes people are confused. Since this is the project record sheet, it would only be talks or demonstrations for this particular project as listed here. And the last thing on this page is exhibits. So a lot of the 4-H projects, you sign up at the beginning of the year, you learn and do things. We do like you to do at least one talk about this project and one exhibit at the fair, if it's appropriate. Obviously, if we use the woodworking example, if you build something, you can exhibit that at the county fair. If it's a babysitting class or a project that you're taking, sometimes people can put together a little babysitting kit and then exhibit that at the fair. If it's crafts or photography, that's a pretty obvious way to bring something to the fair. If you did gardening or raised flowers, you can have an exhibit. And so there's usually something that you can do at the exhibit. Even if none of that works, sometimes people put together a series of photos. We have an exhibit opportunity at the fair for a photo story. So you could have some pictures about a project if there really wasn't a thing to enter at the fair. So that's what that part is. It's not required, but that's just kind of a goal we have for each project. And then the last 2 pages are about the money, the expenses. So this is one of the skills that we really value in 4-H as well, is just to know, are you making money or losing money on the different projects that you do? So for each project, we'd like you to keep track of anything that you purchase or money that you spend on supplies, materials, a camera, wood if we're doing woodworking, craft supplies, etc. So you keep track of money you spend while you're getting your project completed. And then the second table is, did you make any money on this? You could sell something. You might get premium money from entries at the fair. There's lots of ways that you might have income that comes in. And it's not that we're expecting that you make money or lose money on either one. It's not right or wrong. That's not what we're looking for. We just want you to be able to keep track of that and always know, are you making money or losing money? Certain projects, there's no way to make a lot of money and it's just going to cost you something. That's fine. We just want you to be aware of the cost of that project. And then at the very last page, it's taken the totals from this previous page. You put in, what was your income? What was your total expenses? And so any expenses subtracted from your income is going to be your total profit or loss in this particular project. So you might say that I spent money on some craft materials, but I entered them all in the fair and I made $25. So maybe your income was $25, but you spent $15 on the materials, So you could say, I ended up making $10 off of this project, plus I had all the cool crafts that I made. So again, and if it was the opposite way, sometimes animal projects are only income spent and you don't get a whole lot of money back. And so if it's a negative, we're not looking at that as that it's not acceptable or anything. It doesn't matter what your total profit and loss is. What matters is that you know how to keep track of it and you know the value of your project. And that's everything on the general project record sheet.